The following live stream has been pre-recorded. Any special weather reports or tornado warnings that are present during this program should be checked within 30 minutes from your local television stations. Thank you.
Powered by Riverside FM.
Live from Riverside, this is AJ&E News. Now reporting, AJ Baker and Ethan Jakowski.
Good evening, everyone. I am AJ Baker. Unfortunately, Ethan Jakowski has the night off. He just seems to be taking his joyful naps, but no one can blame him there. Another full day of news for you with new news coming into the newsroom just right now as I'm filming this intro. But we have enough news to at least start the program. I can put it into the system as this next story is going. But of course, we start with the case of a Michigan woman falling overboard on a boat in the Bahamas. The continuing search for her continues. Reporting on this is Fox 2 Detroit.
Well, the search for a missing Michigan woman has shifted from rescue to recovery. 56-year-old Lynette allegedly fell off a boat in the Bahamas over the weekend. Now we're hearing from some people who knew her well. Fox News' Dave Spencer joins us live in studio with what former neighbors had to say about this bizarre and really tragic situation. Dave.
Yeah, Roop, we spoke with Lynette and Brian Hooker's former neighbors who are utterly shocked that Lynette could go missing during a routine boat ride. And although they haven't seen them in a few years, they describe the couple as happy and eager to spend time with one another when they last saw them. Lynette and Brian Hooker used to live on the west side of the state in Kentwood. Now, roughly 5 years ago, their neighbors say they sold their home, bought a camper, and eventually made their way to the Bahamas. Now, police in the Bahamas say over the weekend, the Hookers were on an 8-foot dinghy. It's a motorized boat to get from one port to another. Brian told police that Lynette fell overboard with the keys to the boat, causing the engine to shut off. The next morning, Brian paddled the boat to shore and reported her missing. As for their former neighbors, they find it hard to believe that foul play could be a factor here.
To go live in a trailer or a camper and then go live on a boat with very little stuff, you know, takes the type of person that is connected with each other, you know. But like I said, I mean, 5 years have gone by, and if there was trouble, it could have been after, but not that I, you know, would ever have suspected.
I just found it hard that she probably didn't, or if she did have a life jacket off or whatever, because they always seem to be safe when they're on the boat and everything, you know, the way they talked, the way they watched over everything to make sure everything worked so they didn't get in trouble, you know. But I know how rough it was. We were just down on a cruise not too long ago, and the seas were bad out there.
Now, Lynette's daughter issued a statement to Fox News. It reads, "There have been prior issues brought to my attention which may be important for any thorough investigation. If this truly was an accident, I can understand and live with it. However, there needs to be an intensive review of the facts and circumstances of this tragic incident before that can be determined," end quote. This evening, police in the Bahamas say their search for her body continues. They're using boats and drones, but so far she remains missing. Tonight on The Edge, more from the neighbors on how close the couple used to be when they did live in Michigan. In the studio tonight, Dave Spencer, Fox 2 News. Roop?
Okay, thank you, Dan. That was Fox 2 News in Michigan, in Detroit, reporting on that for us. Thank you. That is our top story for this evening. Continuing in our news this evening, automatic registration for the military, according to the federal government, has been officially initiated, meaning that it's pretty much just like jury duty. Anybody could get pulled from a pool of people that have already signed up to the military or have agreed to go into the military. Basically, anyone at any time could get pulled out if any conflicts happen. At least that was determined by the federal government today. For this one, we have NBC News Chicago reporting on this.
And a major change. The federal government plans to automatically register young men for the military draft starting in December. So what does that actually mean? And how likely is it that we'll see a draft for the war in Iran? NBC5's Rose Schmidt separates fact from fiction.
The most recent military draft was during the Vietnam War. So ever since 1973, military service has been voluntary. However, most men between the ages of 18 and 25 do have to register for the military draft pool. The news this week is the federal government wants to streamline the process. Instead of self-registering, people would be automatically registered.
I think it was probably in the works for some time, and it's just to make the system more efficient. So I don't think anybody needs to lose sleep over the likelihood of being drafted and sent to Iran.
DePaul University professor Tom Makaitis studies military history. He says a draft is highly unlikely, and even if there becomes a need for it, it's unlikely to get congressional approval.
The military absolutely, emphatically does not want it. We live in an age of high-tech warfare in which they want, very skilled and trained soldiers. This is not the age of the infantryman with his rifle and his bayonet seizing territory.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked about it during a Fox News interview last month.
It's not part of the current plan right now, but the president, again, wisely keeps his options on the table. But as commander-in-chief, there's no greater priority or responsibility to this president than, of course, protecting the American people.
This is Northwestern University professor William Reno's take.
I think I would be more concerned just from the point of view of control and security of information, that automatically registering people for something like this rather than asking for their consent.
Reno also poses the question, what about women? As of right now, women do not have to register. Rose Schmidt, NBC 5 News.
Thank you, Rose.
Okay, thank you. And that was NBC Chicago reporting on that for us. Thank you so much for reporting on that. Again, new news is just coming into the newsroom. We have more news to get to later, but we will get to the ones that we have put in the system now. So I will get to that right now. Okay. Again, that was CBS 5 Chicago reporting on that for us. Thank you. Thank you so much for reporting on that. Next up in our line of stories tonight, kind of a developing story that we talked about on Tuesday. Rex Heuermann, Rex Heuermann's court case in which we were talking about on Tuesday, he officially admits and pleads guilty to his alleged, but now confirmed, cases of murder. We have ABC News Live. We have ABC News with more information on this story.
Breaking news, Gilgo Beach serial killer suspect Rex Heuermann just pleaded guilty in court. The former New York City architect was arrested in 2023 and originally pleaded not guilty to killing 7 women. Their bodies were found on Long Island. An 8th murder was later added to those charges. His trial was set to begin in September. We have Rena Roy outside the courthouse, along with ABC News legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer here for more. So, Rena, tell us more about this guilty plea.
Yeah, Perry, we just got word from our team inside court that Rex Heuermann has officially pleaded guilty to some of the counts in this case. The prosecutor at this hour, at this moment, is going one by one, asking him about these counts, asking if he caused the death of Melissa Barthelemy. He said yes. And he also asked, did you cause the death of Megan Waterman? Rex Heuermann responded, yes. How did you cause the death of Megan Waterman? Heuermann said strangulation. We are told from our team inside court that it is very tense in there. We are told that his ex-wife is leaning forward in her chair, holding tissues, almost bracing herself on the chair in front of her. The families of the victims are also there, too. We are told it is packed inside this courtroom. And this is just a pivotal moment in this case that has been decades in the making. Remember, the first remains were found back in 1993, and more bodies were found up until 2010. Investigators had searched for clues for years until they zeroed in on Heuermann back in 2023. We are getting more information from our teams inside court. The prosecutor asking him, you used a burner phone to contact each victim. He said yes. You killed each victim in the same manner. He said yes, Perry.
All right, everyone, let's go to Brian Buckmeyer here in the studio here. So Heuermann maintained his innocence from the jump. Today decided to change his plea. What is that decision-making process to go from not guilty to guilty? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so your initial plea of not guilty often comes at arraignments or when the indictment comes in, and then it's a process of what the evidence says and the gathering process as well. Now, for those of us who've been following the Rex Heuermann case, we have seen the different types of evidence that come in, the arguments as to whether or not genetic genealogy should be used, whether or not certain DNA or other forensic evidence should be admitted into the trial. And one after the other, we saw the defense losing these legal arguments where the prosecution was building a pretty strong case, looking at some of the things that Rena pointed out, whether it be the strangulation, the manner of the death, the tracking of cell phones, the DNA or forensics that was found on many of these bodies that connect to Rex Heuermann. And it just seemed like this would be an insurmountable case or insurmountable trial. And I think at that point in time, you have the defense and the prosecution having some real conversations of, is it worth going to the trial? Is there some sort of agreement that we can make to avoid having all of these victims relive some of these instances of hearing about lost ones and loved ones dying, and then also have it that the state doesn't have to go through all these resources and the defendant doesn't have to go through this trial? Now, I'm not hearing what exact charges he's pleading guilty to. If he's pleading guilty to first-degree murder, those sentences are very high. That's a minimum of 20 to 25 years, all the way up to life. So there's going to be some negotiating as to what his ultimate sentence will be, and maybe that was an impetus to take a plea deal, to have a better control as to what the actual number would be. But 61 years old, he's looking at a lot of prison time, potentially the rest of his life in prison.
Where do we go from here with this?
So after a plea is done, then there will be some sort of sentencing agreement depending on what sentence he's given. If he's pleading guilty to charges where it's an automatic sentence of one thing or another, then he'll just be marshaled along to the jail, and then they'll find out where he's going to go in terms of prison. But if there is a range, then there will be some sort of sentencing, either where there are victim impact statements that can be given, as well as aggravating and mitigating information to try to find the appropriate sentence that he might get.
Brian Buckmeyer, Rena Roy, thank you both.
Okay, that was ABC News reporting on that story. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Now to a more of a developing story that we first told you about in February. In February, we told you about a New York Police Department sergeant that was initially fired for murdering a civilian by hitting him with a cooler. The civilian was named Eric Dupree, and the New York Police Department sergeant has just been given his sentence. That sentence is officially within 3 to 9 years in prison on manslaughter charges. For more information on this, here's CBS News, New York.
We start with breaking news. A judge just sentenced a former New York City police sergeant on second-degree manslaughter charges. Aaron Duran was seen on video throwing a cooler at 30-year-old Eric Dupree, who died from his injuries. Lisa Rosner is live outside Bronx Criminal Court with the latest. Lisa, what happened?
Well, Cindy, Duran was sentenced to 3 to 9 years in prison. He was taken to jail right away, and this is the first time an NYPD will go to prison in many years for the killing of a civilian while on duty. In the courtroom, the family of the victim, 30-year-old Eric Dupree, was in tears. Back in August 2023, then NYPD Sergeant Duran was seen on video throwing a cooler at Dupree, who was going 30 miles per hour on a motorized scooter. Dupree was not wearing a helmet and died in the crash after he lost control. Police at the time said the father of 3 had just sold drugs to an undercover officer and was fleeing arrest. At sentencing, a lawyer for the state attorney general's office asked that this was the sentence, 3 to 9 years, saying in part, Sergeant Duran recklessly caused the death of another human. He did that while on duty. There is no more serious gravity of offense than taking the life of another person. Duran apologized directly to the victim's family and asked the judge for a chance to be there for his wife and 3 children. His lawyer said in part it was unintended and tragic, but he should not spend years of his life, not even days of his life, for a decision he made in 2.5 seconds. That is the very definition of excessive and disproportionate. Right now, we're hearing from the victim's family, and we also heard from Black Lives Matter, who spoke.
In New York's history, it is a very seldom occurrence that justice prevails when a cop kills a black and brown person. But today, in the Bronx, we got it right.
And we know that Duran's attorneys are filing an appeal today, but in the meantime, he has been sent to jail. We are waiting to hear from representatives of the police union who were in the courtroom, and we'll have the latest for you later today. We're live in the Bronx. Lisa Rosner, CBS News, New York.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, I'm losing my mind. Thank you, Lisa. That was CBS News New York reporting on that story for us. Thank you so much. Now, we do have another story for you that is actually quite an interesting one in terms of technology. A Florida Attorney General is officially opening an investigation into OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, for apparent influence that may have been possible for the Florida State University shooting on campus that happened last year. The Attorney General states that ChatGPT may have influenced most of his choices, and he asked the AI some very specific questions, in which you will hear. Here is we do have a channel reporting on this. Here is WPTV 5 News with more information on this. Here's NBC 5.
He is opening an investigation into OpenAI, tying the company not just to broader concerns about children and AI, but also to the 2025 Florida State campus shooting. Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders takes a look.
Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer says OpenAI is now under investigation.
Today, we formally launch an investigation into OpenAI, and subpoenas are forthcoming.
The probe, says the AG, is all about public safety, national security, and whether AI tools are being used in dangerous ways. That includes, he claims, the 2025 FSU shooting that killed 2 and injured 6.
As big tech rolls out these technologies, they should not, they cannot put our safety and security at risk.
The scrutiny comes after ChatGPT records tied to the accused gunman, Phoenix Eichner, showed a disturbing progression from despair and suicide questions to asking when the FSU student union is busiest, also how the country would react to a shooting at the school, and the number of victims needed for media attention, all of it asked just minutes before Eichner is said to have opened fire. In a statement about the records, OpenAI says after learning about the shooting last April, it identified a ChatGPT account believed to have been associated with the suspect and proactively shared the information with law enforcement. The company added, quote, "We build ChatGPT to understand people's intent and respond in a safe and appropriate way, and we continue improving our technology." While the records are now part of a forthcoming lawsuit against OpenAI, Florida prosecutors are being far more careful about what they'll say publicly.
Certainly there is evidence concerning ChatGPT, but I won't be commenting on the evidence at all until we're in the courtroom.
State Attorney Jack Campbell says AI records are becoming part of a wider universe of digital evidence investigators now use to understand what someone is doing and thinking before a crime.
How someone has been interacting with that ChatGPT or other platforms of AI often gives us information about what they were doing, what they were thinking, and how they were doing it.
It's unclear the full scope of Othmeyer's effort, but the forthcoming subpoenas could reveal just how aggressively Florida plans to test where AI responsibility begins and where criminal accountability still rests with the person behind the keyboard. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, WPTV News.
All right, Cam, thank you so much for that. That was WPTV News, NBC 5 News in Florida. Thank you so much for contributing that piece of news to our newsroom. The next piece of news that we have, another developing story that we told you about a few days ago. We told you about a Hawaiian doctor who was accused of hitting his wife over the top of her head with a rock, allegedly, well, basically killing her. and he has pled guilty to those charges. Just like we had on the last report, we also have NBC News with the Today Show with this piece.
The jury in this case finds the defendant guilty.
This morning, a guilty verdict in the case of Hawaii doctor Gerhard Koenig, a jury convicting the Maui anesthesiologist of attempted manslaughter based on extreme mental or emotional disturbance for trying to kill his wife Ariel on her birthday. He faces up to 20 years in prison when he's sentenced.
Dr. Koenig, the verdict of the jury is indeed unanimous.
The 47-year-old appearing emotional as the verdict was read.
We hope that the verdict today brings Ariel the next step into closure.
But the defense vowing the fight isn't over.
We look forward to an appeal.
The jury of 7 women and 5 men deliberating for about 8 hours. The foreperson telling NBC News why they ultimately chose not to convict Koenig of the most serious charge, second-degree attempted murder.
We felt that with the language presented in our instructions that the definition of attempted murder was not fully met by the evidence shown.
The case centered around a violent altercation last year at the top of this scenic hiking trail in Oahu. Prosecutors alleging Dr. Koenig, outraged by his wife's so-called emotional affair with a coworker, tried to push her off this steep cliff, attempted to inject her with a syringe, and bashed her head repeatedly with a rock. This body camera footage showed during the trial shows the moment 2 hikers said they intervened after hearing Ariel's screams.
I'm screaming and he's telling me, shut the up. Nobody's going to hear you out here. Nobody's coming to save you.
But Dr. Koenig told the jury a different version of events, saying it was actually Ariel that initially attacked him.
When you hit her with the rock twice, why did you do it?
In self-defense.
One of the most explosive moments of the trial came when Koenig's own 20-year-old son testified he believed his father was trying to kill his stepmom.
Is there any doubt in your mind about the defendant telling you who tried to kill Ariel?
No.
But the foreperson says the jury ultimately made their decision based on the testimony of Ariel and Dr. Koenig.
They were the only 2 involved.
Now, the defense did release a statement saying while they plan to appeal this decision, they are relieved Dr. Koenig is no longer facing life in prison. In fact, they say probation is a possible sentence for the attempted manslaughter charge. However, the prosecution says they will request prison time. The judge has set Dr. Koenig's sentencing for mid-August. Craig.
Liz Courts.
Okay, that was Liz Croyce from NBC's The Today Show. Thank you so much for reporting on that. Okay, the next piece of news that we have for you is new news. We kind of break from developing stories here for a moment. But a newly released video in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, officially shows the moments before a building collapsed, killing at least 2 people. With that, here's CBS Philadelphia.
And we're starting this hour with that breaking news that we've been following, that urgent search for survivors continuing right now in Philadelphia's Grays Ferry neighborhood after this parking garage partially collapsed. And take a look at this video just into our newsroom from a nearby Ring camera. It shows several floors of that garage as they came collapsing down to the ground yesterday. The partial collapse killing a construction worker, 2 others still unaccounted for this morning. CBS News Philadelphia's Wakiesha Bailey, she's been live there for us all morning. And Wakiesha, this has been a careful and desperate search underway.
Yeah, good morning, Janelle. That's absolutely right. You know, crews have been out here working around the clock since last night and even early into this morning. Now, let's just take a look from an aerial view from Chopper 3, and you can see just how massive this collapse is, where, as you just mentioned, you can see this garage that is partially caved in. You can see all of the debris that is scattered around. Officials are calling this structure unstable and unsafe. That's why it's so dangerous, and it is quite active. Now, we are told that their efforts will be ramped up today as they continue to look for those 2 missing workers.
Our love for each other will carry us through.
So you just heard members of the No Chop Garage Coalition who have been protesting this project since September. And today, instead of protesting, they are holding a vigil for the workers impacted by this deadly collapse. Now, this all happened at a parking garage under construction on Grace Ferry Avenue Wednesday afternoon. Firefighters were called just after 2:15, pulling 3 workers from the rubble. 1 later died at the hospital. 2 were treated and released, but 2 people still remain unaccounted for this morning. And officials say the 7-story structure is unstable, making this a slow and careful operation. Meanwhile, engineers are now working to safely deconstruct parts of the building so firefighters can get back inside. And we're told the collapse happened during the precast concrete installation when one section failed, triggering a chain reaction across multiple levels.
They wake up one morning expecting just going to work, and something happens now, like they're not coming home and now their families.
There will be some level of community impact to the daily commute and to business activity around here.
We will not rest until everyone is accounted for from this tragedy.
And we're going to show you once again, just take a look at this remarkable rain camera video capturing the moments this structure partially collapsed. Now, back out here live, you can see what a difference just a couple of hours make, as there are quite a few more crews, more first responders on site as they continue to search for those 2 missing workers. Now, Janelle, we've been mentioning this all morning, but this entire area is closed off, and officials are asking people to make sure that they stay clear because, as you can see, they have a job to do, and still no word as to what caused this collapse. Sending it back to you in the studio.
All right, holding out hope for those still missing there this morning. Waukesha, thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Waukesha. That was CBS News Philadelphia reporting on that story. Okay, next up, we have a development in a stabbing case. Excuse me. Alright, so we have an update in a light rail stabbing case now. This yeah, but just to repeat that for you, we have an update on a railside stabbing case now. For more information on that, here is WBTV3 News on more information on that, guys.
In the deadly light rail stabbing case. The man accused.
Excuse me, that's the wrong video. That is supposed to be our next story. Regular news blooper. Apologies. Anyway, the actual next report that we're getting into is a FBI and former military personnel have been arrested after top secret information was released from both individuals. For more information on this, here's WRAL News.
Military information leaked. And this FBI investigation has ties to the Triangle. A Fort Bragg Special Operations Command veteran is at the center of it, facing federal charges for sharing classified information with a journalist. In the last few hours, WRAL was first to break the story.
WRAL's Sean Gallagher joins us live. Following these developments, Sean, we're hearing from that journalist who the veteran spoke to.
Yeah, he's saying that this is just a vindictive act of retaliation by the U.S. Attorney's Office after Courtney Williams spoke to him about the mistreatment she says she received when working for Delta Force in Fort Bragg. But the feds think much differently of this. They believe that the information she was revealing could have put soldiers' lives at risk. Seth Harp's book, The Fort Bragg Cartel, shines a light on military misconduct.
My book is critical of these institutions, because I think that waging war in secrecy for 20 years gives rise to a host of cultural problems that spill over into communities like Fayetteville.
He spoke to WRAL about the book in October, his reporting relying heavily on interviews with military veterans, like Courtney Williams, whose LinkedIn account says she was with Delta Force from 2010 to 2018. She was quoted about being sexually harassed and discriminated against while working with Delta Force. She also shared information about the work she would do. In an excerpt from his book in a Politico article, Harp called Williams' testimony a unique window into how the military carries out some of America's most classified national security operations, with Williams herself being quoted as saying, "We'd get executive-level orders from the White House to either collect information or capture a target, or to kill, depending on what the mission was." A criminal complaint filed today indicates she had concerns about how Harp's reporting could affect her, telling her mother, "I might actually get arrested," and telling Harp, "I would definitely have been concerned with the amount of classified information being disclosed." Harp declined an interview but sent me a statement saying in part, "Former Delta Force operators disclose national defense information on podcasts and YouTube shows every day, but the government is going after Courtney for the sole reason that she exposed sexual harassment and gender discrimination in the unit." So I have heard from the Eastern District here from the U.S. Attorney's Office saying they should be providing a press release at some point soon about this. But my request for answers from the White House, the U.S. DOJ, and also the Department of War still unresponsive as of now. Now, if she is found guilty on this charge, Williams faces a maximum of 10 years in federal prison and fines as well. In Raleigh, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News.
All right, that was WRAL News reporting on that story. Sean, thank you. All right, now we have the rail side stabbing, the updates on a rail side stabbing investigation. With that officially now, correctly, here is WBTV3 News with more on that.
Rail stabbing case.
The man accused of killing Ukrainian refugee Irina
in the deadly light rail stabbing case.
The man accused of killing Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska was found incapable to proceed in court by a state psychiatric hospital.
The Carlos Brown Jr. faces state and federal charges in the stabbing of Irina Zarutska on Charlotte's light rail last August. WBTV investigative reporter David Hodges joining us from the newsroom to break down this latest development in this case. David.
Yeah, Siobhan, a motion filed by Brown's attorney in court yesterday is what revealed this new information regarding the mental health evaluation. It does not mean this case is dead or over, but likely just means it's delayed. According to a motion filed on Tuesday, DeCarlos Brown Jr. was evaluated at Central Regional Hospital, and a report from December 29, 2025 determined he was incapable of proceeding. This does not mean he's incompetent to stand trial. A judge still has to decide whether to accept those findings, and even if they do, there's every expectation that there would be a process to restore Brown to competency. I spoke with the attorney for the Zarutska family about the court filing, and she told me this was not a surprise at all and is just the justice system playing out the way it's supposed to.
This was a motion that's not unexpected. DeCarlos Brown Jr. is still in federal custody, so we didn't expect the Rule 24 hearing in state court to happen at the end of the month because he is in federal custody, still undergoing the psychiatric capacity evaluation by the federal investigators.
Yeah, coming up at 6, I'm breaking down what does make this a little different is that Brown is in federal custody in Chicago right now. That's straight ahead at 6 right here on WBTV. John?
All right.
All right, that was WBTV3 News on that story. Thank you so much for reporting on that for us. All right. Okay, next story. The family of a man in Boston, whom the man was shot and injured, is demanding the body camera footage to be released from the Boston Police Department. For more information on this story, here is CBS News Boston.
And everyone
in this world I want justice for my son, and everyone in this world I want justice for anything like this that happened to their family.
The family of a man shot and killed by a Boston police officer calling for justice. The officer is already charged with manslaughter. I'm Courtney Cole.
And I'm Ken McLeod. David and Lisa are both off tonight. The family of the man who was shot, Stevenson King, wants to see the body camera video of what happened. WBZ's Lisa Moeller is live for us in Boston tonight. Louisa?
Well, Ken, Courtney, we know the district attorney sat down with the family of Stevenson King this morning and gave them no guarantees about the release of that body cam footage. And of course, that's a point of frustration. But they also want to send another message today that in their eyes, their loved one is not some hardened criminal, but a man who suffered from mental illness ever since his mom passed in 2009.
So Stevenson wasn't perfect, but Stevenson definitely struggled.
Stevenson King's family painted a picture of a man who wrestled with mental health demons.
Sorry. He had tape, not only on cell phones, but the wall outlets, the sneaker, the emblems on his sneakers, because he said that they were watching him.
But who put his family first.
I said, Stevenson, I love you. He said, I love you too, Sabrina. And that was the last time I spoke to my brother.
Justice for Stevenson.
The 39-year-old's family is represented by well-known civil rights attorney Ben Crump after he was shot and killed by Boston police officer Nicholas O'Malley on March 11th. O'Malley is now charged with manslaughter based in part on what was revealed in his own body camera footage. That footage has not been seen by the King family or the public, and some Boston city councilors are fighting for its release.
So if the commissioner wanted to sit with the family tomorrow, he could sit with the family and allow the family to see this video.
We asked Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox.
The statute says the district attorney owns that space.
And District Attorney Kevin Hayden about the video.
Right now, I'm concerned about the integrity of the legal process and the integrity of our grand jury process.
And while King's own family acknowledges that their loved one has a criminal past, he was pursued for carjacking when he was shot, they say an entire system has let him down.
But the system knew that he had mental health, and what they did is that they kept bringing him right back into the system and not helping him and treating him for his actual mental health issues.
Now, there is another high-profile attorney who's throwing his hat into this case. It's David Yannetti, who represented Karen Reed during her trial. He's now defending Officer O'Malley, calling him in a statement a good man who finds himself falsely accused. We're live in Boston. Louisa Moeller, WBZ News.
All right, that was WBZ News Boston, CBS News Boston. Louisa, thank you for reporting on that for us. All right, next up on this newscast, family and local officials and government officials in New York are enforcing a bill that increases safety and protects helicopters and smaller aircraft that go into the air, after a deadly crash happened in New York last year, killing at least 5 people. With that, here's ABC 7 Eyewitness News, New York.
A helicopter crashed into the Hudson River, killing the pilot and a family of 5 from Spain. Their relatives traveled here to make a stand with local politicians, calling for new safety measures for sightseeing flights. Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore was there.
In life, you can go ahead and go up or go down, and we decided to go up.
The Camprubi family made the emotional trip to New York City from Spain to turn pain into action. Nearly 1 year after their loved ones died in a New York helicopter tour crash on the Hudson River, they urged Congress to pass the Helicopter Safety Parity Act.
It would subject the helicopters to much more rigorous inspections, to the same standards as commercial aircraft, basically. That would mean there'd be inspections much more often and much more thoroughly.
Congressman Jerry Nadler, Dan Goldman, and other elected officials introduced the bipartisan legislation today at the Christopher Street Pier, near to where officials say the sightseeing helicopter broke apart in the air before plunging into the river on April 10th of last year. 6 people died: the pilot, Sean Johnson, Mercé Camprubi-Montal, her husband, Agustin Cañavas, and their 3 children who were visiting from Spain. Lawmakers say the bill, if passed, will improve the airspace.
We'll upgrade technology so that it meets today's requirements and availability, and we're going to make the helicopter industry safer for all.
It was busy at the Wall Street heliport, where folks took to the skies, including these tourists from Thailand. They say they support the legislation.
Well, that's even better. I think it will bring more tourists and stuff.
The Camprubi family hoping to make the skiers safer for sightseers, all while honoring their loved ones.
My sister Mercé was a really smiley person, a really good mother, a really good sister. She was probably part of the energy of our family, that now we're missing. We want to remember them with a smile, because they were young, they were happy, and we want to keep this memory.
As the Camprubi family pushes for change, they're still searching for answers. The NTSB has yet to release its final report on the cause of the crash. Crystal Cranmore, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, that was ABC 7 Eyewitness News, New York, reporting on that. Crystal, thank you for reporting on that. Next up on this newscast, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, is officially taking action and warning parents and families in Atlanta about, or formerly against, online groups that are infiltrating the online world in Atlanta. For more information on this, here is Atlanta News First.
And tonight, a message to parents from the FBI and Atlanta police. Keep an eye on your kids' online activity. Right now, these law enforcement agencies are seeing a sharp spike in cases across the metro tied to an online extremist network preying on teens. Atlanta News First senior reporter Patrick Quinn is live from the FBI headquarters tonight in Atlanta. Patrick, police say these groups are grooming teens, forcing them to harm themselves, animals, and even oftentimes streaming it all on social media?
And Blair, this can be very concerning for parents to hear. We understand that. I asked the FBI specifically about that concern. They said we need to alert parents of this threat right now so that we can better protect teens and the community at large. This group, the 764, it's an online extremist group. It's very active across the country right now. The FBI says they're investigating roughly 450 suspects tied to this group. And Atlanta police, they have 5 open cases right now.
If we don't put it out to the public, it'll be a lot harder to stop it.
Atlanta's FBI sounding the alarm about the 764 online network, a nihilistic, violent extremist group targeting teens nationwide and here in Atlanta. One recent case they're investigating was in Northwest Atlanta. In February, a man was arrested after officials found a dog beheaded on the front porch of a home along Illinois Avenue. Graffiti with 764 markings covered the walls inside. Police said there were also beheaded animals recently left at Atlanta's Anderson Park. And bomb threats at Atlanta schools and businesses have also been linked to the 764 group. Atlanta police now working with the FBI to track down and put an end to this threat.
This is a perfect example of the local federal partnership that is at play every day, keeping this region and our nation safe.
Officials said suspects, oftentimes men in their early 20s, prey on young girls through social media channels like Discord and Telegram. The suspects often groom their victims, get them to send them nude or illicit pictures, then blackmail them, having them harm themselves or animals, otherwise forcing them to pay up. Since 2023, the FBI has more than 50 credible tips across Georgia.
We urge everyone, especially parents, to be extra vigilant when posting personal photos, videos, or direct messaging online.
Police believe these cases are being underreported and now urging parents to look for signs from your kids. Do they have a new friend online? Have they suddenly changed their appearance or how they interact with pets? And to teens, the message from police, speak up.
Tell someone that loves you, tell someone that you love, and law enforcement is going to make sure they get the help that they need, and we're going to make sure those that have victimized them are going to be held responsible.
The FBI today, they said that this 764 group, it started in roughly 2021. Now they've made some progress in tracking it down. They made a large swath of arrests, so they don't believe that it's as organized. It doesn't have that hierarchical organizational structure as it once was. They believe it's now splintered into many other groups. If you believe that your child may be at risk or has already fallen into potential threats tied to this group, you're encouraged to reach out to Atlanta Police or Atlanta's FBI. Outside of headquarters here for Atlanta's FBI, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
Important to get the word out, Pat.
All right, that was Atlanta News First reporting on that story. Patrick, thank you for reporting on that. The next story, a Uber driver in Los Angeles is now federally facing fraud charges. I will repeat again. An Uber driver in Los Angeles is facing fraud charges. For more information on this, here's CBS News, Los Angeles.
An update now on our investigation finding fraud at Uber. CBS News California Investigates uncovered a growing number of cases of drivers who use stolen identities to get hired.
Well, now our reporting is triggering action in Sacramento. Consumer investigator Christine Lazar here with the very latest. Christine.
This story was completely viewer generated, similar to like during the pandemic when we had unemployment fraud. People contacted us, said, hey, we have this issue. And then as soon as we started doing the story, more and more complaints rolled in. So this fraud problem at Uber is raising serious questions about rider safety because it suggests there are hundreds, if not many more drivers who aren't who they say they are.
And apparently, you never know who's picking you up.
A frightening conclusion made by the wife of a victim of employment fraud after his identity was stolen by someone who then used it to get a job at Uber. And he's far from alone. Last month, we introduced you to a number of viewers who got a 1099 tax form in the mail from Uber, even though they had never driven for the rideshare.
That is a huge safety concern.
We requested data through the Federal Trade Commission and found that the agency has received nearly 400 complaints about Uber identity theft fraud, dating back to 2021 from victims all over the country, many of them saying things like, I have never worked for Uber in my life, and reporting that their full name, social security number, and address were being used by imposters who could be driving for Uber right now.
I was unaware of this particular issue until we learned about your reporting. So we are reaching out to the company to say, we also believe that this needs to be addressed.
State Senator Josh Becker has authored 2 recent bills that seek to protect Californians from identity theft. The senator told us businesses like Uber need to do more to protect consumers.
Especially if they know this kind of fraud is happening, we have to hold them responsible to address it.
We've learned there's now a second class action lawsuit that's been filed claiming that Uber is aware of this type of fraud, but hasn't done enough to prevent and address it.
So do you feel like this lawsuit is sending a message to Uber?
I mean, that is the hope. Part of what we're trying to do is not just get money, but we're trying to get Uber to correct its policies.
Florida consumer fraud attorney Kenny Marina filed the suit late last month. As we reported, there's also a proposed class action lawsuit against Uber that was filed here in California in 2023. Both allege that Uber doesn't properly screen its drivers.
Uber doesn't necessarily know who many of its drivers are.
And of course, what does that mean for the person who's in the back seat?
That they are, it's potentially in the car with someone who would not otherwise be able to become an Uber driver without having used the personal information of a non-driver.
In a statement to CBS News California Investigates, Uber said the company maintains robust safeguards designed to detect and prevent fraudulent activity, and that we disagree with the claims in the new complaint.
In general, it's about 50% of resume and job applications that have some type of fake information.
Recently, we spoke with Daniel Yanis, CEO of Checker, a San Francisco-based company that conducts background checks for Uber.
It's a spectrum, right? You can go from people lying just a little bit on their job experience, their dates, their titles to inflate it to look better. That's been happening for some time, but now we're seeing more and more. all the way to a completely synthetic candidate that's a fake person, nothing on it is real.
Every hire matters.
Checker recently launched identity verification, a new tool that allows employers to confirm that potential employees are who they say they are, looking at things like names that don't match IDs or selfies created with AI. But Yanis says it's also a problem that the federal government has no safeguard to keep people from using the same social security numbers for multiple driver accounts.
And maybe 20, 30, 40 different people are using the same identity to get access to the platform in an illegitimate way.
Senator Becker has now called on Uber to do something to address this growing and widespread fraud.
If you're sitting in the back of a car, and I do take a lot of rideshare, you don't want to be wondering, is this person, actually an imposter? We have to give people confidence.
We reached out to the IRS to find out how many taxpayers have gotten Uber tax earning forms that indicate fraud, but the agency told us they don't collect public data on 1099 complaints. That means we're relying on you, the viewer, to let us know if you're a victim of this fraud, and if you are, you can always email me a tip directly at klazar, Lazar, at cbs.com. I do reach.
Okay, that was Christine Lazar of CBS News Los Angeles, head consumer investigator at CBS News Los Angeles. Thank you for reporting on that for us. Next up on this newscast is actually quite an interesting but also kind of weird story. Multiple Texas smokable hemp shops are now suing the state of Texas over their hemp ban. For more information on this, here's CBS 11, CBS News, Texas.
The state's new smokable hemp ban. Let's talk about that. It's now being challenged in court. This is just 1 week after new restrictions went into effect. Our Aaron Jones tonight reporting on the new lawsuit that aims to stop the rules that has at least one North Texas business owner already furloughing more than a dozen employees.
Candace Stinnett says for her, cannabis is more than just a business. It's personal.
It's very personal for me. I was 21 when I was diagnosed with a blood cancer, and throughout my treatments, I was introduced to the therapeutic and medicinal benefits of this plant.
7 years ago, she opened Emerald Organics in Fort Worth. But now, new rules from the Texas Department of State Health Services are cracking down on smokable hemp products, putting everything she's built at risk.
It's been pretty devastating. We had to furlough 16 out of 29 of our employees, so over half. And my goal right now is to simply keep the lights on.
She's hoping help is on the way. A coalition of Texas hemp businesses has filed an emergency lawsuit asking a judge to block the new rules.
We're stoked about it. It's the people that come in here every day, the hundreds of people that look to this plant for relief, and that's who I'm standing with.
For shops like Emerald, the new rules effectively ban their most popular products, flowers. You can see all of these jars here behind me are empty.
There's no way we can withstand the cut of flower.
It's hard seeing it because they're all stressed and they have to put on this happy face for the customers. And it's just so hard.
The lawsuit argues state agencies overstepped, creating rules lawmakers chose not to pass. But the state says the changes follow direction from Governor Abbott, who is focused on safety and keeping these products away from minors.
The required record keeping for these products to make this industry safe, we are all on board for that. But it's the flower. I know what it's like to go through a sickness and need relief. And so my inspiration is the people to keep going forward.
Now she's hoping a judge steps in before more cuts are needed. A hearing is set for Friday. In Fort Worth, Aaron Jones, CBS News, Texas.
That was Aaron Jones of CBS News, Texas. Thank you for reporting on that story for us. Now we get to our final story of tonight. The owner and operator of a boat of a ship in Baltimore has reached a settlement with the city of Baltimore for a crash that injured at least 2 people. With our final story tonight and more information on that, here's CBS News Baltimore.
The owner and operator of the Dolly have reached a new settlement in federal court today. The company that insured the Francis Scott Key Bridge announced it reached a $350 million settlement with Grace Ocean Private Limited and Synergy Marine. Now, this is part of the state lawsuit that's trying to ensure Maryland recovers economic damages related to the collapse, something Grace Ocean and Synergy have tried to cap for years. Our Dennis Valero was in the courtroom, and he explains what else happened.
While a settlement was reached with insurer Ace American, there are still a number of other parties part of this lawsuit against the Dolly's owner and operator, including the state, the city of Baltimore, and local businesses. The judge inside made it clear everyone should be prepared for trial June 1st. A bench trial is set to begin in less than 2 months to determine whether the owner and operator of the Dolly can limit their financial liability in the Key Bridge collapse. Citing an old maritime law, Grace Ocean Private Limited and Synergy Marine are trying to limit liability to around $44 million. But the claimants, the city of Baltimore, the state, and other parties, are looking for billions in damages. While a $350 million settlement was reached for insurer Ace American, and others could follow suit before the trial starts, U.S. District Court Judge James Berdar says remaining parties need to be prepared, saying in court the schedule has to be given tip-top priority.
At a time when too many people wonder whether building big and great things is still possible in our country, Maryland, once again, is going to lead the way and show what is possible.
This hearing comes a week after the state marked 2 years since the collapse. While the reopening date has been pushed back from 2028 to 2030, the Port of Baltimore has reported its second best year on record, and the design for the new bridge is 70% complete, something state leaders have said normally takes years. Last week, Governor Wes Moore said things are still moving really fast.
There's been a historic speed that we've been able to move at, but we have not at all had to compromise safety. We've not at all had to compromise design within that process, because those were tantamount to anything else that was happening.
Ace American paid Maryland $350 million less than 2 months after the collapse. Also in 2024, the Dolly's owner and operator settled with the U.S. Justice Department for more than $100 million. Reporting on your corner downtown, I'm Dennis Valero for WJZ.
All right, that was CBS News Baltimore. Dennis, thank you for reporting on that story. And we have reached the end of the newscast. We hope you have enjoyed watching us within the past hour. I will make it a literal hour doing this, so I have 1 minute left. 3 minutes left. But anyway, it's been an hour. It's just been an hour. We, again, thank every news organization that was responsible for getting us the stories that we got today. We will give you the credit that you so well deserve for your work as journalists. I also would like to take this moment to say that Friday and Saturday will be my nights off. So, Ethan and I will not be doing the news Friday or Saturday. Maybe not Sunday, but at least we'll be back with you on Monday. So maybe we'll see you Sunday, and maybe we'll see you Monday. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I'm AJ Baker. Ethan Jakowski has the night off, even though I did speak to him earlier. He wishes you all well. Anyway, I'm AJ Baker. Have a good evening.